It looks like I am live. So today I want to talk to you about something really important. Everyone are telling you you got to set a goal, you got to have a strategy, you got to have a plan. And you hear all these things and maybe you're one of these people who are like, maybe I want that or that. But then you go home that day and you're like, "Mm, I don't know if that's what I really want." So I want to ask you a really important question. And before I do that, I'm going to share a story how I started figuring out what I wanted. So in 2019, I was walking down a river in the capital, Oslo, and it was cold outside and it was snowing. And I remember looking at the river, and then a voice within me said, I am sick and tired. I am sick and tired of living this life. I don't enjoy anything about this life. Something has to change. Or I don't know if I want to still continue or I'm going to go on a sick leave again. And if you saw me that day, you wouldn't think like, oh my God, this is a person who's falling apart, like is having a panic attack. Because I was really good at pretending that everything was fine. But it was a relief to finally say it out loud. And as I was walking down that river, I was like, okay, so I don't like anything about my life. I don't like where I live. I don't like what I'm doing. I hate my job. I hate my job for a long time. I need a change. And an idea popped into my mind to look at my phone and open an app called iBook. And when I opened that app, I started downloading and finding books that I wanted to listen to. Some of the books were from like musicians that I listened to when I was growing up, for example, Duff McKagan, Slash. I downloaded these books and I started listening to them right away. And immediately I started feeling a little bit better. And then I started downloading personal development books and I started listening to them. And a couple of days after I said this out, where I had my river moment, I started to think about, maybe there's other things that I want to look at. Maybe there's workshops that I want to join. And also at this time, a couple of days after I had my river moment, something called the flu, and I can't say the name here, showed up in the world. So the world had to close down. That was a moment where I could start taking time for myself. I could start breathing. And I started to feel so good that I had all this time where I didn't have a lot of people around me. Now, I know for many of you, that was not a good time. But for me, it was a really good time because as I spent more time listening to audiobooks, joining different workshops, being more outside, I was also able to be more alone in the office. I didn't have people around me. And the more I did that, the more I started doing things that I enjoyed for myself, like taking care of myself, buying things for myself, going to the hairdresser, or I couldn't do that when it was locked down, but doing more things for myself. And then I remember I also at this time had applied for a school in London that I got into to study marketing and communication. But just before I was supposed to go there, I asked myself, is this what you want? And a voice within me said, no, I don't want to go. And it was interesting because I had a job that I was working for only for 9 months. So at the end of the summer, I didn't have a job. So here I was just like, I'm not going to go and study and having no plan moving forward. But it gave me time to think. I'd also saved up a little bit money for myself. And then I remember one day my sister came and visited me. And she said, Ingrid, I have a cat. And my child brought that home. But we can't have this cat because we're all allergic. And a voice within me said, of course, I'm going to take her. And I had never been that person before, being so sure of myself. And by bringing that cat into my life, I brought a little bit more love into my life. And then a couple of months later, I remember it was October, and I was lying in bed watching YouTube. And suddenly, this man shows up called Bob Proctor. And he's on a podcast show. And he's talking about earning money and why that is important, and that we got it wrong understanding how money works. And I remember thinking to myself, what is he talking about? I'm not interested in earning money. I just want to feel better. But something in his voice kept me there. And the more he was talking, I was like, interesting. This man knows something that I don't know. And then a voice within me said, you should find out more about this man. So I did. I typed in his name and went on his website. And there I saw it was a free webinar called The Science of Getting Rich. And I was like, oh my God, it's like this is happening for me. I remember I felt this joy and excitement. And it was in 1 hour from the time I found it online that this webinar was starting. And I signed up, and I was kind of almost running around the apartment because I was so excited that, oh my God, he has a webinar like in 1 hour, and I'm going to be on it and learn more. And I remember when that webinar started, I was ready with pen and paper and not really kind of knowing what I got myself into. But I got hungry of the knowledge that he had, because I discovered that this man knows something that I don't know yet. He knows something that I want to know also. So at the end of the webinar, it was an invitation to join this program called the Paradigm Shift if I wanted to. And I signed up right away. I didn't ask anyone, I didn't call anyone. But for the first time, I was taking the lead on what I wanted, because I saw what was in front of me and I was like, this makes sense. And this program I bought was for many hours, and it was a weekend. So I had time to binge watch it, watch the whole thing. And this, when you find a series on Netflix, for example, and you think it's so good that you can't stop watching it. That's how it felt for me when I saw this information. And I remember at the end, he asked me a question. What do you really want? And for the first time, a little voice within me said, I want to do exactly what you're doing in my own way. I want to teach this information. And I remember tears coming down my chin. And here is how I got where I got with saying what I wanted. I first had to say to the universe what I didn't want. Remember that river moment when I was walking down the river and I said what I was sick and tired of? I had to declare that and say that before I could see what I wanted. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I want you to have a beautiful day. And if you want to find out what you want, maybe this is your way. This was my way, and it worked perfect for me and a lot of my clients. So have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon.